Welcome to the David Wells Experiment. I'm your host, David Wells. So, today's episode is going to be interesting. I'm going to preface this by saying I'm probably oversharing some life experiences. It's nothing too crazy, but I'm going to try, to the best of my recollection, list girls that I've liked. Are those experiences. I'm not going to name any names, but I figure, you know what? What the heck? Why not? So, where does this all start? So, I think the year is 1994. There's this sort of older girl. She's like, and by older, she's like 13 or something in our neighborhood. I think one time she was maybe at the neighborhood park or something, and let's see what happened. I'm pulling back a couple years. Anyway, she seemed cool, and I kind of felt happy being around her. And so I think my mom's like, "Oh, do you like her?" And I'm like, a little kid doesn't know how to articulate something. So I figure, oh, she makes me feel a little bit happier than normal. So I didn't say it, but I'm like, do I? But, I only saw her for that one day, so I didn't think much of it. And then I think the year must have been 1995. I've been a fan of Power Rangers for a long time. Well, long time. The original incarnation of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So I have this dream one night that I meet Kimberly, the pink Power Ranger. That's the one exceptional name make to naming. And I'm like, I think I like her. And so I look forward to watching an episode of Power Rangers the next day. But lo and behold, they recast the character, or they had another character come in to be the Pink Ranger. I'm like, dang it. It has to happen now of all times. I'm like, okay, that's disappointing. And then must have been 97, 98. My parents played music at a gig, and they met these musicians, and they had these two daughters. One of them was blonde, and she wore a baseball cap all the time. And I really didn't like. I don't know. I kind of didn't like her, but her and my sister. But the two girls struck up a friendship with my sister. So don't you know? She invites them over to our place to spend the night, and so I hang out with her, and I'm like, okay, she's kind of cool. And this happens a couple times. So one evening, I think it was a Wednesday evening or a Tuesday evening at church, I used the landline. This is how far this goes back. And I call her up because I have her number. I'm like, hey, guess what? And he's like, what? I'm like, I like you. He's like, you do? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh. And I'm like, do you like me too? And she's like, yeah. And that was amazing. And like, we have this long distance friendship because I wasn't allowed to have a girlfriend or whatever. And so we have communication for about 2 years, but then I don't know how we fell out of touch, just life happened. Anyway, I think that had a lot to do with my parents splitting. And then there's this one, let's see. And what else happened? I don't have my thoughts nearly as well collected. Plus, I'm kind of pulling back a couple years ago to try to remember stuff. Let's see. Oh, my dad had this music buddy from a while back, and I met his daughter, and she seemed cool. And let's see. So, anyway, I meet her sometime in 99 or 98. No, it had to have been 99, and she seems cool. And then my parents split, and I'm kind of an emotional mess. So what happens is a, I run into her at Six Flags, and I tell her I like her. I forget what she said, but it was basically like a shock to her, and I never have any interaction with her again. And like, okay, that didn't go great. So what happens next? Oh, um, so what happens next is I go to this school, and there's this one really cool girl who, after 3 days, I think she's awesome. And it could have just been the fact that my parents were divorced. So any semblance of happiness, I blew up to something much, much bigger. So I basically tell her I like her, but she tells me she didn't feel the same way. And that's fine. And I have a friend who, or at least I thought she was my friend. Um, I sort of confide to her and like, oh man, I, I wish, things were different, but oh well. I would basically confide to her that, yeah, just that, but nothing else. And then she goes and tells one of my teachers some other things that make me sound a bit more nefarious, and I got in trouble. So she basically lied about me. And I'm like, I don't know, it kind of broke me up that like somebody would do that to me because I didn't do anything. I just told her like how much I liked her and I wished that she had liked me back, and that was it. But she's grown up, and I'm sure if she heard this, she'd be like, "Hey, you know, that's sorry about that." But high school people are idiots. So I'm going to take a slight detraction. I've talked about girls who I've liked, but I'm going to diverge a bit to remember the first time I actually wanted to chat a girl up and like sort of ask her out. And this one I'm not so sure on the date. I think it was sometime between 2000 and 2003 maybe. But what happened is, so my grandparents' church, after service, we would go to this one Chinese restaurant called Full House. And I don't even know the girl's name who I met. But anyway, so yeah, we go there, and it was anywhere between, I was either 12 or 15 or something like that. I want to say, or had to have been 12 between 14. Anyway, this particular restaurant has the loveliest hostess there. I remember she was in this lovely black dress. It looked like something Audrey Hepburn would have worn. And she had dazzling eyes and a wonderful smile. And her voice was just like wind chimes. And so I remember one thing that happened is during our meal, this happens a couple times. She comes over to our table and she just starts talking with us. And she was really smart. My uncle asked her, "So what are you studying at college?" And she's like, "Oh, it was Linux." She said she was studying the Linux operating software, the Linux OS. I think maybe it was at UTSA. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, so my grandpa and Uncle Mikey nicknamed her the Linux girl. And that's all I remember her from. Lol. But anyway, I just remember when she went back to like the front of the restaurant, I really wanted to go over there and just start talking to her one on one because I don't know, she just seemed cool. But part of me was like, she's in college, David. You're like, what, 12 or 14? You know, nothing could happen. Plus, what if you look like an idiot? You're not just going to be making yourself look bad, you're going to be making your grandparents' church look bad. I mean, it's probably a good thing I didn't say anything, but who knows? Maybe she would have just thought it was cute. Or who knows? So what happens next? Oh yeah, so that was like the first time I remember I wanted to like ask a girl out or chat her up and not it feel like, just two kids who liked each other. But Anyway, yeah. So what happens next? I feel like I've been saying that a lot in this video. Okay, so that girl I liked at my high school, we eventually just become friends, and she doesn't think anything bad of me. And I remember the only reason I studied to try to pass ninth grade was so I could be in the same class as her. And she winds up leaving in 10th grade after what, maybe a couple weeks. And I really attested that to my math teacher just being an absolute tool, and school wasn't fun anymore. So after 10th grade, I got out because she was kind of the only reason I bothered. So I'm like, this is done. I'm like, bye, Felicia. So that was that. Well, who is the next girl? So this next girl, she was a bit of an irregularity. Um, we were just friends, but my parents kind of sort of tricked me into thinking I might like her. And like we just hung out, we were friends, and I think what they got into my head was, okay, she sort of makes you happy. And they didn't frame that in a way like, oh, that's possible in a platonic friendship. Uh, yeah, so I kind of thought like this might be my best chance to, you know, be with someone. So I thought maybe it'll go somewhere. But, in retrospect, we were just good friends. And I shouldn't have thought that just because she makes me a little bit happier than normal, therefore I like her. Anyway, um, oh yeah, there was this one. I'm dating by how long I've worked at Chick-fil-A. 2006, there was this one team leader at my work who, she was really pretty, and we seemed to talk good. Anyway, I so one day I go to her church, and which was the church I was going to at the time. I'm like, hey, do you have a boyfriend? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, sorry about that. And she's like, oh, it's okay. But yeah, another disappointment. And let's see. I feel like I'm going to forget somebody at the end of this video, but that's life. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, so this one next bit is funny. Okay, so it had to have been 2011. I'm going to this new church. I'll name it. It was called Hana Church. It's now defunct, but yeah. So I've been going there for 2 weeks, and I really feel like I'm not making a connection with anybody. So anyway, I So I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll go somewhere else. And then I meet this one girl who I talked to her about computer games and video editing. I'm like, wow, she's really cool, and she's also kind of cute. Maybe I'll stick around this church for a little bit. So I stick around. I don't see her again, but I like what the pastor has to say. So I'm there for a couple months, and we're having a Bible study at someone's house, and we decide to go to a restaurant. It was this older woman. I'll say her name. Her name was Nami. She's like old enough to be my mom. So anyway, one of my friends, so I'm sitting with two of my friends. I'll go ahead and say their names too. James and Lucia. So James and Lucia are sitting next to each other. Me and Nami were sitting side by side across from James and Lucia. And I recount this story. And so Lucia says, oh, that was Nami's daughter. And I'm like, what? No, it couldn't have been. And she's like, no, I remember watching this conversation happen. And I just get so red in the face. And I just turn to Nami. He's like, oh, it's okay. I'm glad you thought my daughter was cute. So, yeah, I hadn't heard the term lol yet. I'm sure it was invented, but lol. So that was funny. Let's see. I'm not going to mention any celebrities or anything. Just, well, I said a Power Ranger, but that's when you're like what, a little really little kid. So of course, that happens. Anyway, what was the next time? Let's see. Oh, it had to have been 2014. So I switched churches, and there was a girl at my church who um she was in my college group, and she would translate. And one of the reasons why I went to the Korean ministry was because I really liked the sound of her voice. Again, it was kind of like wind chimes. And so, yeah, and I was just happy to be with her at any moment. And what else happened? Oh, yeah. So that happens. But she has to leave the US for, visa reasons in 2015. And that really sucked. So, yeah. And about a year later, I make a video confession telling her, hey, I don't expect you to feel the same way, but you're really awesome and I liked you. And you've just set a high bar. So that happens. And she sends a very lovely response saying she doesn't feel the same way, but she treated my emotions like they were valuable. And I thought that was cool. And I don't like anybody for a long time until late 2021. So funny thing, there's this one girl, she comes into my work, she gets interviewed, and I made a comment about how cool her hair looks, and she was appreciative of that. So a couple weeks later, she shows up, I just see her behind the counter at window. I'm like, okay, she seems normal. And then she's on Expo with me, and we chat, and she seems pretty friendly. I'm like, oh, what a delightful person. And yeah, I get along with her really well. And here's the funny thing. At that point, I just thought she was cool. Like, wow, she's really awesome. But here's the funny thing. I've been told that I say the word catch up really funny. And people are like, say it again. I'm like, what? Catch up? Is there a difference between catch up and catch up? I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I don't hear it. But apparently everyone else does. And so one day she makes fun of the way I say it. She's like, catch up or something. So for some reason, that was the switch that got flicked where I'm like, I think I like her. And I'm just absolutely enamored with her. And for the next couple months she was there, I was just happy every day. So I remember one day we're chatting and we talk about some sort of restaurant and I'm like, well, maybe we could check it out. And she's like, yeah, I'm free. Yeah, I'll bring along my sisters. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to a restaurant with a girl I like. I mean, it was just as friends and she was bringing her sisters along. But I just remember thinking, this is unprecedented territory for me. And I don't know, I was so psyched about that. And, we're cool. And so I remember she expresses like, hey, I think I might put in my 2 weeks. I'm like, shoot, that sucks. And so here's the thing. I wind up buying her a bunch of presents, like as kind of Christmas and birthday presents. And in retrospect, now that I'm no longer infatuated with her, I can tell how mental I must have seemed. So yeah, my bad on that. So anyway, I give her some Christmas presents. It's a couple weeks before, and she loved all of them. And I'm like, this is amazing. And funny thing is, she had no clue that I liked her. And everyone asked, I'm like, hey, is it obvious that I like someone? And they're like, oh yeah, we all know who. It's pretty obvious to anyone with eyes. But somehow she missed it. I later found out that one former coworker, I asked her, was it obvious? And she said, yeah. And I even tried telling her a couple times, like, hey, I think he likes you. And so I'm like, huh, wow. So a couple weeks go by, and then she's like, hey, I put in my 2 weeks today. And that just kind of wrecked me. Now, so I have this option. So I'm thinking, like, okay, I'll tell her on the last day that I like her, come hell or high water. But I'm like, you know what? That's kind of a cowardly thing to do. You've done that thing before where you tell a girl where, and you're not going to see her again. She put in her 2 weeks, so why don't you just tell her today? That way you kind of have to live with it. You kind of have to live with the idea that she knows, and you know that she knows. And so, yeah, I went ahead and I made the decision. So I tell one of my coworkers who obviously knows, and I'm like, hey, can you send her home? She's gonna leave at 3 anyway. Can you like let her go home a little bit early so I can tell her? And he's like, yeah. And so my lunch break goes way over because I'm waiting to tell her, and my heart feels like it's gonna burst out of my chest. And anyway, so I'm waiting, I'm pacing back and forth. I asked for a bag filled with ice. Now, I can't, slight interruption, I have to emphasize I am no longer infatuated with her. Me making this video might sound to the contrary, but I can assure you I no longer have feelings for her. And again, can't stress this enough, I'm not naming any names. So anyway, I'm holding the bag of ice to my chest, trying to calm down, and then I see her, you know, walk into the dining room, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna happen. And so I'm like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so I'm sitting down, she's standing up, and I'm like, I think I kind of said something and then got to point, I'm like, I have a really big crush on you. And I think it took her a second to realize, like, no, I don't think of you that way. I'm like, I know, I'm not trying to get you to like me. He's like, you shouldn't. And I'm like, oh, and I had to assure her, like, hey, I'm not telling you this to try to win you over. I know you don't like me, and I know you're not gonna ever like me, but I have to let you know to be honest with my feelings so that I can get over you. And she got that, and she accepted that, and I just told her thank you for being nice to me about it. And so then she left, and I tried to get on with my shift, but people could tell there was something obviously wrong with me. So I think I clocked in and I was good for maybe half an hour, but they're like, hey, do you need to sit down for a second? Because I was like, yeah. And then a couple minutes later, I was just sobbing. And one of my friends, she had clocked out for a while and she was heading home, but she was kind of my shoulder to cry on, and I just dished everything to her. And she was very conciliatory. If she's listening to this, thank you again. I know I've said it before. So anyway, yeah. And eventually one of the team leaders, he comes up and he's like, hey, you don't feel well. You can go home for the rest of the day. And I was working till 9 that day, and it was like 3:30. So I went home and I sobbed, and yeah. So that happened. And so this was kind of a thing that bugged me for the next couple months. But the way that so I got to backtrack to something. So in 2017 and 2018, I had some personal trauma I went through, and it made me not want to make movies anymore. Tried as much as I might to put forth a creative endeavor, it always just seemed to fall to pieces. Now, so fast forward back to the future, lol. So anyway, I'm I'm driving home on my way from church, and there was this one song by that girl group Twice called The Feels. And I always thought this song perfectly encapsulates how I feel about her. So I was on my way home from church, and that came on like my playlist or whatever. And it made me think of how I liked her, and I just started crying again. And then the next day, I discovered the trailer for the Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie, and I watched it so many times. And there was a powerful line in that movie where he says, I need to get back to who I really am. And just that whole trailer, I watched it so much, and I don't know what it did. Remembering that song that reminded me of her and how much I liked her and crying, and then seeing that trailer on repeat, I don't know, it felt like that switch that switched on that made me like her, it just switched off. And while it might have switched off my feelings for her, I feel it switched back on my sort of creative spirit and my creative output, because I wound up writing like 180 movie script pages. I just thought, I'm back. I'm back to my old self. And I have to wonder if I had to fall for her that hard and then fall out in order to get back to that place. So, yeah. And so a couple weeks go by, and I inform her that I'm no longer infatuated with her. And she's really cool about it. She's like, thanks for telling me. So that's cool. We're friends now. But anyway, so here's kind of a happy thing. So there's this one kid at my work who's telling me about this girl he likes. And I tell him, just tell her how you feel. You like her a lot. Even if it doesn't go the way you want, just, you don't have to tell her to get the response you want. Just, it's better to be honest with your feelings. So he's like, okay, I'm going to tell her. So the next day, or something, he recounts to me like, hey, I told her how I felt and she feels the same way. And we're going to like try to hang out. I'm like, that's awesome, man. And so I felt happy that, somehow my story could inspire him to be brave and open and vulnerable with his feelings, even if things went better for him than they did for me, because I no longer like said girl. And the funny consequence of that is other stuff seemed far less terrifying in comparison. I mean, like, I feel I can be way bolder about things and way more upfront because everything else in comparison doesn't seem scary or terrifying at all. So, yeah. And I guess my hope is it takes a long time. It seems like there's this long. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot something. So, I feel like such a tool. Okay, there was a story I omitted, and I won't forgive myself if I don't, mention it. So, 2010, I'm studying Japanese, and I have a Korean friend who has a Japanese friend, and he's like, hey, if you want to learn to read and write Japanese, I have a friend. So, he introduces me via Facebook, and we make an agreement to go study at the UIW library. So I see like, okay, she seems cool on her Facebook. And so I meet her in person, and she smiles and laughs at everything. And I just thought this was delightful. And so it's funny. So very quickly, my meeting with her became not about learning Japanese. I just really wanted to spend time with her because she was delightful. And she wound up having to go back to Japan in May of 2011. And yeah, we had one final lesson. I gave her a copy of the Bible in Japanese. It was one of those Gideon Bibles that you find in hotels and everything. And I just tell her, Jesus loves you. And I pray for her. And she's pretty, I don't know what her religious beliefs are, but she was pretty receptive. And she thanked me. And yeah, I did I did cry in front of her. And she was kind of like, oh, like she seemed concerned, like, oh, it's cool, it's cool. But anyway, yeah, I never confessed my feelings to her. I doubt she'll ever listen to this, but if she hears this and she figures it out, I'm like, yeah, lol. And don't worry, I got over my feelings for you a long time ago. So anyway, yeah, those are all the girls I've liked and who I ever felt like asking out or wanting to chat up. Um, the one thing I feel pretty hopeful for the future, but the one thing I'm just a little nervous about is it takes me forever to like anyone. Like, there's a long stretch of time between me liking a girl and yeah. But I feel like I become a better person after every moment. So there we go. Yeah, well, I hope this helped you out. And I feel it is much better to be in fact. I get what Shakespeare was saying about it is better to have loved and lost than to have never have loved at all. Because I would almost rather be infatuated with somebody and they not feel the same way than to not be in love with somebody. Because even if it's unreciprocated, somehow I just felt more like magic back then. I mean, now I got to make my own magic. I have to create art to feel that way or come close to it. But, don't feel mopey if, the person who you like doesn't like you back. And I realized, if you're going to fail gloriously. Just be honest with your emotions, even if it doesn't turn out the way you want to. You'll be better for it. You'll feel better for it. So this has been the David Wells experiment. This has been my second lengthiest post. I hope this has helped you out. Have an absolutely super day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.